This is the Demo Man, and he has one of the hardest achievements to get in Team Fortress 2, which is the Tartan Spartan. With a total of only 6.7% of all TF2 players having this achievement, to complete it, you need to deal a whopping 1 million blast damage to your enemies. Now, for a highly skilled demo, this may seem like a reasonable task to complete, but me, well, I haven't played TF2 in about 5 years. And not only that, I've also never played Demo Man before. So I thought, what better way to jump back into the game than to challenge myself to one of TF2's hardest achievements. Also, to make things even harder, I only have 7 days to complete it. You see, I'm getting a puppy in about a week's time, and I need to finish the challenge before this happens. So not only was I trying to get one of the hardest achievements in the game, I was now also on a time limit. With that said, let's find out if I can get 1 million damage as Demo Man in under a week. Now for this challenge, we have a few rules that we need to go over. Rule 1, I can only play Demo Man until this achievement is unlocked, which means I can't switch classes for the entirety of this challenge, not even to take a break. Rule 2, the challenge needs to be completed in under a week, because as I mentioned before, I'm getting a puppy, and I won't really have much time to play TF2 after that happens, at least for the next little while anyways. I will also be choosing a new loadout every 100,000 damage, pretty much until we run out of guns to use. Then from there, I will find the loadout with the highest damage output, and then use that for the rest of the challenge, which brings us to rule 3. Once a loadout is selected, it is locked in for the next 100,000 damage. So no matter what happens or how I feel about a particular loadout, I have to commit to it until we reach the next 100,000 damage milestone. And rule 4, no achievement or strange farming servers are allowed. Well, obviously. Also, throughout the video, my damage will be tracked using this achievement tracker in the top left corner, so you can easily follow along at how much damage I have at any given time. Now that we got all that out the way, let's get into the challenge. To start off the challenge, I decided for our first loadout to just go with completely stock demo, pretty much so that I could refer back to this loadout later on in the video. 1, to see how I was progressing in terms of skill, and 2, to give us a good idea of how different guns compare to the stock loadout. Now with my loadout selected, it was time for me to load into my first game as Demo Man. To start us off, I joined a casual match on Viaduct and got right into the challenge. My first kill was on this poor engineer trying to set up his equipment, and this marked the first of many kills yet to come. The challenge had begun, and this was definitely going to be an interesting week, that's for sure. It wasn't long after this that I was killed by this heavy, and the game decided it was a good idea to rub it in my face that 1 kill is the most I've ever gotten in a life as demo. Thanks, Valve. Now, I was doing okay for the next little bit of the game until I came across a pyro that looked a little suspicious. So I decided to check and see if he was a spy by shooting stickies at him, except I couldn't hit my sticky shots, and then the inevitable happened. And that was my first interaction with a spy as a demo, and they were going to prove to be very difficult to deal with for the foreseeable future. But the spy wouldn't be the only class I would struggle to deal with in this challenge. With classes like the Pyro and Scout, I also felt like I had a lot of room for improvement before I could kill them efficiently. And that improvement, yeah, that was going to take a bit of time. Oh, Scout! Oh my god, dude. Oh no, not this again. Oh my fucking god, I got fished to death. Oh, Pyro! I'm already dead. What? Oh my god. Not a scout, please. Oh my god, bro. Dude, oh my fucking god. Scouts are going to be the death of me. With that being said, I was improving at countering classes at closer ranges as I progressed more throughout the challenge. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's get back to our first couple matches as demo. After my first game, I then joined another match on Viaduct. And other than spending the first half of the match dying to snipers, this one actually went a little better than my previous game. And at the end of it, I managed to get 3,200 damage. So after my first 2 matches, I had roughly 4,700 damage, which took me about 30 minutes to get. Now, with that, if we were to get 1 million damage at this speed, the challenge would take us roughly 106 hours to complete. And that is definitely not an ideal time at all. At this rate, I would have to play TF2 for at least 15 hours a day for the next week to even get close to finishing this challenge in time, which is just simply not possible. I need to pick things up pretty quickly if we're going to get anywhere with this achievement. The next couple of games were a little better though. However, I was still struggling to kill enemies at close ranges, but I was getting a little better at keeping my distance in fights and doing some more damage by ticking away at players' health from afar. I also managed to get the most damage I've had in a single life so far, and I even ended game 3 with 550 more damage than I had in my previous match. So I was definitely showing some signs of improvement already. Speaking of improvement, I also managed to get my first kill on a spy as a demo, which I was quite happy about. Oh, dude, that's gonna look so bad from now, and then look at me later in the video. I'm think that's good now, but like later on, I'm gonna think that was so bad. But shortly after, I was quickly reminded of how much improvement I still had to make. Stop! No! Oh my god, dude. However, in the next match on Dust Bowl, I did manage to pull off something I was not expecting to do this early into the challenge, which was double my previous best for the most damage I've got in one life. Yes, that's right. I somehow got over 1400 damage in a single life. Okay, well, I did have a pretty good way of getting copious amounts of damage in this game, and that was by holding the enemy team at their spawn, and by applying constant pressure to them, I was able to survive as long as I did. A few games after this, we had reached the 4-hour mark in our challenge, and had amassed close to 40,000 damage. At this speed, it would still take me another 96 hours to get this achievement. I desperately needed some way of getting my damage up, because getting games like this was not going to happen very often. So I did a little brainstorming, and I came to the conclusion that if I could move around the map a little faster to get to the action, I would be able to up my damage by a measurable amount. So I decided to give my friend Leg a call, who was willing to run me through a little lesson on sticky jumping.
You ready to sticky jump?
Yes, sir.
Was that good? Was that good?
Yeah, I got it. Now, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me learn how to sticky jump. So to summarize, I spent a little while learning and practicing how to sticky jump and got it down enough to where I felt confident to start using it in public games. Thanks to Leg, I could now move around the map more freely and would be able to use this new skill to hopefully increase our damage output. Now, with that out of the way, I jumped back in and started grinding out my damage again. The next few games were going pretty smoothly as I was getting a little more comfortable with playing demo. I even managed to get my first ever sticky jump kill. Well, kind of. It wasn't pretty, but I was happy with it, alright? At this point, another hour had passed, and after about 5 hours into the challenge, I was sitting at 53,000 damage. So at this stage, I had about 89 hours remaining of the challenge, which is a slight improvement from our previous hour. So I was definitely starting to pick up a little more momentum. Now, after 5 hours in, I came to realize that I was spending a lot of time waiting around for respawn timers, and I knew that there had to be some solution to this problem. Well, obviously not dying as much would help, but that's hard to do when you're absolute ass cheeks at demo. So I went for the next best thing, Skyle's 24/7 2-fort servers. For those of you that don't know about Skyle servers, they're a server that is always set to the map 2-fort with 0 respawn timers, meaning I can get back into the action almost instantly and would have a map that I could get familiar with for consistent results. This was going to be a pretty big game changer for me. Don't worry though, I won't be staying on this map the whole time throughout the challenge. I'm not an absolute psycho. I'm definitely going to have to take a break from playing 2-fort. I'm simply just going to be throwing this map into rotation, so hopefully I can get some consistent PvP as demo. Now, with that being said, after a little time on Skyle, I was already seeing some signs of improvement. For example, I was getting a little better at handling scouts in close range fights. By waiting for them to run over my stickies, I found that it was the most effective way to keep them either far enough away from me so that I could do some damage at a safer distance, or if they do decide to come closer, well, that good old right click will clean them right up. You could do nothing there, buddy. But this was something I still needed a lot of experience to perfect, and it definitely wasn't at a perfect level just yet. And for pyros, well, they continue to cook me like a goddamn Sunday roast. Oh, okay, bro. Pyro. But other than dealing with pyros and scouts, day one was going pretty smooth at this point. I even managed to get the most kills I've ever had in a single life as demo. We're now at 7, boys. Unfortunately though, watching back through this footage, I've realized one crucial mistake I've made in most of these clips, and that is neglecting the grenade launcher. There are plenty of opportunities where I could use it, but instead I opt to reload the sticky launcher and continue firing stickies, which ends up taking me a much longer time to do. But that being said, I will get better at this as time goes by. Well, you'd hope so. As for my damage output, in the past couple hours, I managed to rake in a total of 50,000 damage, bringing us to just over 100,000 damage. And on that note, I'd been playing TF2 for 8.5 hours at this point. So I decided to call it a night and pick up the challenge again tomorrow. To recap day one, I spent a total of 8.5 hours playing to reach 100,000 damage. At this stage in the challenge, we had another 76.5 hours left. That's a decent change from where we first started, but I still had to speed things up. So let's see if we could do that with our next loadout. I started off day 2 by choosing our next loadout, which we will be using for the next 100,000 damage. I decided to go with the Iron Bomber, the Quickie Bomb Launcher, and the Pain Train for our next 100k. That's my loadout for the next 100,000. I'm gonna add some cosmetics this time around though. Let me see what we got here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking fucking schmick. Now that I had my loadout selected, I was ready to jump back into the challenge. The first thing I noticed a few minutes into my first game of the day was that the shape of the grenades from the Iron Bomber felt a lot easier to use for me. Oh. Okay, I can see the hype with the round grenades. It's a lot nicer. I do appreciate them. I know that this is pretty much the same weapon as the regular grenade launcher, but something about the round projectiles just made it feel slightly easier to hit my shots. I felt like I was a little more consistent when it came to hitting moving targets like scouts, but it was still far from perfect. Although this little change definitely made me feel a little more confident in my aim. After the first game of day 2, I decided it would be a good idea to jump on Sky's 2 Fort servers for a bit. Now, as I mentioned before, you will be seeing this server quite a bit. The main reason being that there's no respawn timers, but there was also one more reason. Spawn camping, baby. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Spawn killing is such a virgin move.
I think they're talking about me. Oh, the damage. The first hour of the day was going pretty smooth. I was getting a decent amount of damage pretty quickly, but there was one thing in particular that was holding me back, which was the fact that the Quickie Bomb launcher only had 4 stickies compared to the regular Sticky Bomb launcher's 8 projectiles. And with this, I found myself getting into fights quite often and not having enough ammo to finish them. Just like this. Fuck. I'm just on 0 bullets, dude. That's real shit. I've got half the amount of bullets in this gun than I had in the other gun. So it's real hard with the sticky launcher. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Why not just switch weapons instead of reloading?
Switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading.
Well, remember, I'm terrible at demo, but I promise I'll get better at this as time goes on. I just wanted to mention this being a very limiting factor of this loadout, especially for a non-experienced demo like myself. After about another hour on Sky's 2 Fort, we managed to get another 20,000 damage, which I was quite pleased with. It definitely put some dent in the amount of damage I needed to get done for this day, to stay on track and finish our challenge. So I decided instead of driving myself insane by playing the same map for hours and hours on end, I'd switch back to regular old casual matchmaking for a little and see how I would do with this loadout on there. And on my first game back on casual, I almost hit a really good clip. Well, that went very well. It's just too bad I suck at hitting the detonate button on time still. With that being said though, throughout my time in these casual matches, I was actually starting to get more kills in a row and was able to stay alive a little longer in fights against multiple enemies. But there were still times where I would get a little too overwhelmed.
Nice. Killed the other one.
Yeah.
To your left.
Oh shit.
Oh.
I got fucking Girardi. Oh. What the hell was that? Okay, so there may be an elephant in the room we need to talk about here. Yes, I am playing on servers with random crits. And don't worry, I'm not going to sit here and debate about random crits with you. But I do want to mention crits in general, because they are a big contributor to damage in TF2. Oh! Using crits to give us as much of an edge as possible will definitely be a big help with this challenge, and will end up leading to some clips like this, where we can get heaps of damage in a matter of seconds. Whether it be from a Kritzkrieg or just completely random, they will help give us a bit of a boost in damage throughout the challenge. Sometimes, as seen in this clip here, giving us multiple kills from just one hit. Oh, that's like 500 damage right there. Skyle also has random crits enabled. So with having a server that has 0 respawn timers and random crits, hopefully that can give us a bit of a helping hand to get this challenge done in time. Okay, now back to the current state of the challenge. I actually found myself disliking the Quickie Bomb launcher, and even more so as the day went on. I felt like I was constantly reloading it after firing a few shots, which was throwing me off my timing on getting stickies down around enemies. So with the slight timing issue, I couldn't seem to get as many kills as I would have liked to so far. After about 10 hours into the challenge, we were sitting at 130,000 damage. So at this rate, we were going to take another 67 hours to finish the challenge. This is still not as fast as I need to be moving. I need to pick things up if I want to get this challenge done before I get my new puppy. But a couple hours later into our casual games, I seem to be getting a little better at hitting my shots with the Iron Bomber. Not to mention getting a little better at predicting enemy movement, which helped a lot when using the pretty limiting 4 stickies in the Quickie Bomb launcher. Crits in these matches were also a big part of my damage output as well. I then decided to switch back to Sky's 2 Fort server and see how fast I could make up a bit more damage. At this point, we were sitting around 150k, so I thought I would sit in 2 Fort until I managed to get to the 200,000 mark, and it took me around 4 whole hours to finally get to 200,000 damage. So after around 14.5 hours, we had finally made it to our next 100,000 milestone. All right, boys, so I've got 200,000 damage so far. We're currently on hour 14.5. So far, so good. We're kind of tracking along, but it's time to change my loadout. I'm gonna get a recommendation from Leg for a better loadout, because this one is just, it's been hard. I found this one really hard for some reason. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I want to see what we can do with the next loadout, to be honest. I'm hoping it's better than this. And this next loadout would definitely be a lot stranger than our previous one. But first, let's recap what I've learned so far from this loadout we just used. First of all, I did end up getting better at timing my stickies, especially while being limited to only having 4 available. This limitation forced me to be more cautious with my sticky output, unless I wanted to get caught reloading my quickie bomb launcher in the middle of a fight. Even though I could launch stickies faster, it doesn't mean I had to. And because of this, my placement of stickies became more precise and more calculated than they previously were. As far as the iron bomber goes, well, I came to realize how much I prefer it over the regular grenade launcher. And yes, I'm aware that they're practically the same weapon, but something about those round grenades just made the gun feel nice to use. And maybe this is just my demo man experience increasing, but I felt like it was a lot easier for me to hit my shots on moving targets while using this launcher. However, I will come back to this down the line in the video to see if I really do prefer the iron bomber over the regular grenade launcher. So currently in the challenge, we're sitting at 14.5 hours in, and we've reached 200,000 damage so far. At this point, we have approximately 58 hours left to go, which means for the next 5 days, I'll need to play TF2 for 11.5 hours each day. I really need to find some way to speed things up. Now, I have no idea whether this will speed things up or not, but this sure is a different loadout. The main thing I'm excited about with this loadout is the Scottish resistance. I don't know why, but being able to choose what stickies that can explode is very appealing to me. But who knows, that might just change down the line. For my first game of this loadout, I loaded back into Scar's 24/7 2-fort server to get a good feel for the Scottish resistance. And to be honest, it was pretty damn good at spawn camping. But a man can only sit there aimlessly clicking his mouse for so long. So I decided to get out the loose cannon and give that a go. And that's when this happened. Oh, jamming!
We traded!
The sound I got from that was insane. That was me trading with my friend who was in the lobby at the time. This was my first ever double dunk. And this sound right here, whoo, was so damn satisfying to hear. Something about this sound made the gun feel so good to use. Having some kind of audio and visual feedback for a shot that just hits your enemy in a certain way definitely makes the gun very rewarding to use. I would for sure be giving the loose cannon just as much use as the Scottish resistance, if not even more, which I was not expecting to do at all. Another thing that's great about the loose cannon is the fact that you can knock back your enemies. This is especially useful against classes like Pyro and Heavy, and I'll touch on this again in the future. After about 2 hours, I had managed to get to 230,000 damage. At this point in the day, it was getting relatively late, and I've been playing TF2 for about 8 hours straight, so I decided to call it a night. To recap, at 16.5 hours, we had 230,000 damage. Let's see if we can improve that number by at least 100,000 damage tomorrow. All right, day 3. Let's see how fast we can get to 300k. We only have 70,000 damage to get in order to reach our next milestone, which is a lot less damage than we put in yesterday. So surely we can pull that off today, right? Well, let's find out. For my first few games of day 3, I went back into some more casual matches. Now, I mentioned before the knockback on the loose cannon. Well, this knockback feature was definitely making itself useful today. I managed to get a good amount of use out of it, especially while getting myself out of sticky situations, as you can see here. It was also working really well against classes like the Heavy and Pyros, as well as a couple demo nights. This would definitely help me while pushing fights with my team. For example, like this clip on Egypt, while trying to make it onto a point where there's an Ubered Heavy standing there holding the entrance. The knockback, combined with the faster projectile speed and satisfying double dunk, made the loose cannon a very strong choice of weaponry for me. As far as the Scottish resistance goes, it definitely does what it's intended to do. Well, what I think it's intended for. And that's spawn camping. But again, I found myself leaning more towards using the loose cannon, especially when I was able to hit clips like this. Oh my god! I just got a million double dongs. What the fuck? As well as it just being a more reliable way of killing enemies, like pyros when they're all up in your grill. At this point, I had spent 3.5 hours playing in casual matches, and I thought I was doing pretty well, but that was not the case. I decided to check my damage on hour 20, and we were only sitting at 270k, which I was thinking at this point in the challenge, we would be a little further along. So I thought it would be best to finally switch back to Skyle, so we could speed up our damage output by again mitigating those pesky respawn timers. And right back in I went to continue getting my damage up. After about 2.5 hours playing on Skyle, we managed to reach our goal of 300k, with a loadout that I genuinely had a lot of fun using. The loose cannon with its ability to knock back enemies in close ranges is something I can definitely appreciate as a new demo man. It makes taking fights in close ranges not only easier, but also even more rewarding when you can knock a player away and then finish them off with a second blow. Also, that satisfying double dunk adding another level of finesse to this launcher. As for the Scottish resistance, well, it definitely put in some work for me, that's for sure. I used it quite a bit to trap enemies in their spawns, which was a really efficient way of getting damage very quickly. The thing is, you can only do that for so long. If anything, having this loadout made me feel more confident using a grenade launcher like the loose cannon over something like the sticky launcher. So at the end of day 3, and after 6 hours of playtime for the day, we had reached a total of 22.5 hours played, and we had just hit 300,000 damage. At this rate, we would have to continue playing for another 52 hours over the next 4 days, which is roughly 13 hours a day to finish the achievement. This is actually a step back on our daily time compared to yesterday. So let's see if this next loadout can change things around for us. For our next loadout, I went with the Lock and Load, the Tide Turner, and the Islander. Okay, so this achievement is for 1 million blast damage to enemies, and the Tide Turner does no blast damage at all. So why is it in this loadout? Well, you see, I wanted to try a class with a little bit more mobility to it, and to see whether or not rotating to and away from fights would be worth swapping out a secondary launcher for. As for the Lock and Load, well, that has a 25% faster projectile speed than the normal grenade launcher. However, having a few drawbacks with that, including not having rollers, which are grenades that continue to roll on the floor after you miss a target, which can sometimes result in you getting a kill anyways. Not only that, it also has a smaller explosion radius and a smaller clip size of only 3 grenades versus other grenade launchers having 4 projectiles. This was definitely going to be a stranger loadout than what we've seen so far, but I wanted to try and use all of the possible loadout combos I could so that I can make a decision on what the best loadout is for damage as Demo Man. With that out of the way, I jumped back in for the start of day 4. I started off in a casual match on Dust Bowl, and things weren't really going too well for me at the start of the day. Oh my goodness. This also continued for the next couple of games as well. Fuck. Bro, what? But after switching back to 2-4, things seemed to pick up a bit. I started to actually hit my shots, and the rust started to come off my aim, which was definitely a welcome change compared to the previous games we've had. I even managed to hit some air shots as well. Oh, air shot. After about an hour and a half, I had reached 320,000 damage, and we had officially made it to the 24-hour mark in the challenge. I had been going at this challenge for a whole 24 hours, and we were only just a third of the way there. Let's just hope I can pull my finger out of my arse and get a move on in this thing in the next few days. On the upside, however, I did manage to find a few use cases for the Tide Turner. It was particularly useful when I got myself into those sticky situations where I either needed to reload or I bit off a little more than I could chew by pushing too many enemies at once. And I got some pretty clean kills using it too. Oh, that was clean. One thing I do want to mention at this point is that my aim has actually gotten noticeably better since the start of the challenge. The faster projectile speed of the Lock and Load may also be helping with that as well. But for the most part, I'm definitely hitting more shots on a more consistent basis. Okay, except here. We don't talk about that, okay? But for real though, classes like the Scout have become a lot less of an issue for me, and I seem to be holding my composure more in fights due to the fact that I'm feeling a bit more confident in my aim. Another 3.5 hours had passed, and I have reached 370,000 damage. It was at this point that I realized that the Lock and Load was probably my least favorite launcher so far. It just felt like a worse version of the Iron Bomber, to be honest. Sure, the increased projectile speed was nice, but the amount of drawbacks this gun had for that projectile speed increase just wasn't worth it, especially after just coming off the loose cannon, which also had a faster projectile speed than stock, but was just way more satisfying to use. And it had rollers and the double dong feature as well. So this gun just kind of felt like a chore to use in comparison. After about another 2.5 hours, we had reached 400k, taking us to a total of 30 hours of this challenge so far. Only 100k more until we reach the halfway mark, boys. To recap this loadout, I would say that its strong suit was definitely the mobility that the Tide Turner added, but it wasn't used enough for it to be worth giving up a secondary weapon for. As previously mentioned, the Lock and Load was probably my least favorite launcher so far. Having all those drawbacks, it just wasn't worth the increased projectile speed. And the Islander, okay, that was just there for a little bit of fun for me to use when I got bored. I did a full battle in a hallway with another Demo Man. Sick. Okay, here's what I decided to go with for our next loadout. The Iron Bomber, the Sticky Jumper, and the Frying Pan. At this point, we had just run out of guns to use, which made our final gun in this challenge the Sticky Jumper. And to be honest, this seemed like a pretty solid option for us to use, especially since we're looking for something to give us a little bit more mobility. But let's see how useful it is in practice. For my grenade launcher, I opted for the Iron Bomber, as to me, it felt like the most consistent grenade launcher I've used so far, and I really wanted to test and see if it could potentially be my main launcher for the rest of the challenge. Now, with the loadout sorted, I decided to go back into Scar's 2-Fort server and start using this combo. All right, I'm excited for this one. Let's see how this goes. I haven't used this before, actually. Okay. Oh, dude, it feels so good to be able to just jump around again. Holy crap. First of all, I found the sticky jumper really enjoyable to use, especially since I hadn't been able to jump around the map for such a long time. And the fact that I took no blast damage while using it was also a really nice bonus too. I quickly found that it was really good for pushing fights as well as taking control of the enemy's battlements on 2 fort, as you can see here. It was also just simply nice to use for rotating around the map and to get away from fights. Speaking of things that I was missing, rollers. I didn't realize how much I needed rollers until now. The amount of potential damage I was missing out on while not having them is actually insane. I could have potentially been dealing damage even after missing shots, like in this clip here. Oh, it feels good to have rollers again, dude. So switching back to the Iron Bomber was definitely a good choice. So far with this loadout, things were going really well, and I was actually getting consistent damage for once, which is exactly what I needed at this point. But after about 2 hours and a total of 32 hours playing, I checked how much damage I had, which I only managed to get to 430,000 damage. So at this stage, it looks like we have around 42.5 hours left of the challenge, if we continue at this pace, which is roughly 21 hours a day for the next 2 days of just playing TF2. This challenge was seeming like it was going to be more and more impossible to complete in time before I got my puppy. So let's just hope that something can change in these next 2 days. And at this point, I'd been playing TF2 for 10 hours straight, so I decided it would be a good time to call it for the night. On day 5, things actually started to pick up quite nicely. My shots were more accurate, and I just felt way more comfortable using a grenade launcher in general, especially because it had been so long since I've used a sticky launcher that I could deal damage with. I was actually getting pretty good at predicting enemy movement, which meant hitting more shots and, well, dealing a lot more damage. Holy, the damage! Holy shit. After about 4 hours on this morning, I ended up getting 70,000 damage, which is insanely fast compared to our previous days. For example, yesterday in 2 hours, we only had 30k. So if we doubled that, then in 4 hours at that pace, we would be at 60,000 damage. That's already a 10k damage increase. And this game right here is a clear example of our progress so far, where I managed to get 13,000 damage in 1 game. And not to mention this game too, where I was able to get to 10k. That's definitely the progress I've been looking for. This 70k damage took our total to 500k, which meant we were finally at the halfway point in this challenge. With that goal being met, and now we had run out of new guns to switch to, it was time for me to decide what loadout I think would be the most effective for our damage output, and that I'll probably be using for the rest of the challenge. All right, boys, we just hit 500k damage. Halfway there, I am switching back to stock. Well, I'm getting the sticky launcher back. And to celebrate, I'm becoming a sticky bomb. Oh yeah, I'm looking sticky. Boys, I'm about to go crazy with this thing I haven't had in so long. Now, I'm sure a lot of you TF2 veterans are very surprised by this loadout. But yes, I decided to pretty much go for stock demo. Except instead of the regular grenade launcher, I opted for the Iron Bomber. And for my secondary weapon, I went for the regular sticky launcher. This was the loadout I was going to try and use for the rest of the challenge. To celebrate the return of the sticky launcher, I decided to create myself a themed outfit, which eventually became so iconic that I had people copying my style in game. Yeah, this Brody guy definitely trying to steal my my flow. Wait, does he even have the sandals on too? He does.
Are they not the same part of the same fit?
No, like that's just what I put on my character. He's put the same fit on.
Apparently people do that.
What the hell? Okay, but man, did it feel good having this thing back. With my timing of stickies being better than it was to begin with, it was definitely very refreshing being able to use the stock sticky launcher again, especially when I could do things like this. Holy shit! My overall prediction of where to place stickies was improved, as well as my trigger finger while using the launcher, and also having moments like these where I could just click my right mouse button and just be able to get a kill. Oh, okay. As far as the Iron Bomber goes, well, my experience with this thing was pretty extensive, as I've used it quite a bit so far throughout this challenge. Was it my main choice of launcher? Honestly, I don't know. It felt very similar to the stock launcher, besides the rollers taking less time to explode and grenades having less bounce. I'm very 50-50 on whether that's something I prefer. It's very situational and both have their advantages, but something about the slightly faster fuse time felt a little more consistent to me. One thing I do need to mention is the difference between the sticky jumper and the sticky launcher. Obviously, the self-inflicted inflicted blast damage is one thing that is significantly different between the two. I found myself using the sticky launcher a lot less for rotation around the map, simply because I would end up with half my health left after just one jump. And that was one place where the sticky jumper really shined. And obviously that's the purpose. But I was happy to give up that little bit of rotation for the damage I could deal with the sticky launcher, especially with it being paired with another grenade launcher. But with that being said, the sticky bomber still definitely had its moments for me, like this one right here.
Oh my god. Oh!
Things were moving along quite well, as I was somewhat accustomed to these two weapons, and my damage output was increasing more and more every game. I was also hitting some pretty nasty clips too.
Holy fuck, I'm going off. I just cleared this whole area for us, by the way.
With all of this improvement, it actually ended up leading to our fastest time at hitting 100,000 damage. It took me only 5 hours to finally reach 600k, and I think it simply came down to this loadout being one of the strongest, if not the strongest loadout I've used in a while. I was really happy with this progress so far, but I knew I could take things a little further. It was time for me to step things up in terms of my in-game performance. I would have to do everything possible to get all the damage that I can, even if that means I can no longer spare friendlies on 2 forward. Yeah, that's right, no one's safe anymore. For the next 100,000 damage, I pretty much ended up only using the sticky launcher exclusively. I don't exactly know why, but it may be just because it was a comfortable choice for me. And at this point in the challenge, we were 41 hours in, with not much time left at all. So I think subconsciously, I just went with an option that I was 100% confident in my ability to deal damage with. But with that being said, the sticky launcher definitely put in work for the next few hours, racking up a total of 100,000 damage in only 4 hours. That's an hour faster than our previous 100k. Okay, now we were really moving through this challenge. And yes, that's right, we actually hit 200k in one day. It did take us 13 hours, but we managed to reach 700,000 damage. We had a total of 300,000 damage remaining, and only one more day left to acquire it. With that being said, this took us to hour 45 in the challenge so far, and I've been playing TF2 for 13 hours straight, so I decided to hit the hay and get a good night's rest before our final day on this challenge. Let's see if we can get 300,000 damage tomorrow. Day 6, the final day before I get my puppy. For the next 100k damage, I decided to switch back to the stock grenade launcher, simply just to compare the two so I would have a fresh comparison in my head. Especially after just coming from the Iron Bomber, I would be able to easily compare how each felt to use. So let's find out which of the two of these is better, shall we? At the 600 to 700,000 damage mark, the sticky launcher became the primary weapon for me to use. But here, on the start of our final day, I began using the grenade launcher again, and it actually became just as much use to me as the sticky launcher was, especially in situations like this.
Yeah.
Oh, good shit. Oh, holy fuck, you just killed everyone.
They were standing still, okay? It wasn't crazy. They were just standing
No,
there.
it's okay. Crazy.
When there's a bunch of enemies in one area, it makes it very easy to get a heap of damage in a matter of seconds. And not to mention when there's also crits involved as well. The improvement I'm seeing in these clips watching them back is night and day. From missing 90% of my shots at the beginning of this challenge with the grenade launcher to hitting clips like this. Oh my god, I just went crazy. Holy shit, the kill feed. Oh my goodness, the kill feed. It's definitely very cool to see how far I've come in such a little amount of time. Well, it didn't seem like a small amount of time for me at this point, but in retrospect, from a player that is coming back to the game and had no experience with demo, I would say my ability with the class has definitely increased tenfold since starting. Things like sticky placement, crosshair placement, player prediction, and overall game sense and coordination in fights has already shown major strides, as well as my experience dealing with scouts and pyros, which has become so much better, to the point where I don't even feel like they're a threat anymore, simply because I can now trust my aim and player prediction using the grenade launcher. And if that doesn't work well, then I have my sticky launcher to clean up the fight. I spent a lot of time for this first portion of the day on 2 forward, and that was definitely a smart choice, because for some reason everyone on the enemy team all decided they wanted to stay in large groups and in smaller areas of the map, which meant a bunch of easy damage for me. Not to mention all the friendlies inside the sewers that were just sitting there waiting to be killed. I'm sorry. With that being said, it took me roughly 5 hours, but we made it to 800k damage. With a solid start behind me for the day, it wasn't the quickest 100k we had got, but I was pretty confident I could pick up the damage as I played more throughout the day. Only 200k left until we finally complete this challenge. I decided to switch back to the Iron Bomber for the rest of the challenge at this point, as I found the short fuse time on the grenades just felt a bit more convenient in more situations than the grenades on the stock grenade launcher. Now that I've been playing for a few hours, I started to really get a flow down, and the damage was rolling in faster than ever. In 3 hours and 45 minutes, we hit 900k. That knocked 15 minutes off our previous best time. At this point in the night, I was getting super tired, but I was so close to the end, and I had to get this challenge done tonight. So I pressed on and continued getting my damage up. The difference in how demo felt to play now compared to the start of the challenge was so significantly different. I felt super confident, and everything to do with the class just felt like it came super easy to me now. My shots were just hitting without having to think about it too much, and I became more relaxed while playing, which is really nice right now, especially because I was so damn tired. I spent most of my time for this last segment of the challenge on 2 Fort to maximize the amount of damage coming in. To be honest, I was just aimlessly playing at this point. I couldn't even watch the tracker on the screen. I needed this challenge to be done. Every kill I got, I was waiting to hear the achievement notification. But as it got later and later into the night, I was feeling less and less confident that I was going to get this achievement done in time. And the thought of getting some much needed sleep was seeming more pleasing to me by the second. That was until... Oh, I did it, dude. Oh my god. Finally. That took so fucking long, holy. It took an additional 2 hours and 45 minutes, but we hit 1 million damage. It only took 56.5 hours of playing only demo to achieve it, but it was finally done. This challenge was a lot of fun to do. Sure, at the time of filming, it felt pretty grueling, but now that it was done, I'm super happy I did it. Not only have I managed to get one of the hardest achievements in the game, I've also found a new love for the demo man, which I honestly wasn't expecting to happen, and I won't be letting this experience I've gotten throughout the challenge go to waste. With what I've learned throughout this video, I'm definitely going to be using demo a lot more. But there is one thing we can't forget. The puppy. You think I'm just going to talk about getting a puppy in this video and not show it to you? So this is Bailey, and yes, she's grown this damn much since I've been working on this video, which is insane. All right, put you down. Pyro, one of the most obnoxious and arguably most hated classes in all of Team Fortress 2. Now, this is pretty common knowledge within the TF2 community, but what you might not know is that Pyro has one of the hardest achievements to get in Team Fortress 2. Yes, that's right. This somewhat supposedly easy class actually has a difficult achievement to get, and this achievement is the Pyromancer, where you need to deal a whopping 1 million fire damage to your enemies in order to complete it. Only 6.9% of all TF2 players have ever gotten this achievement. 6.9%. And today, I'm going to be attempting to do it in under a week. And if I don't, well, I'm going to be permanently deleting my YouTube channel forever. So, without wasting any time, let's find out if I can get 1 million damage as Pyro in under a week. Now, for this challenge, we have some rules we need to go over, and they are as follows. Rule 1, I can only play Pyro until this achievement is unlocked, which means I am locked into playing Pyro for the next 7 days, and I can't switch classes, not even to take a break. Rule 2, this challenge must be completed in under a week, and as previously mentioned, I have to delete my YouTube channel if I don't do so. I will also be choosing a new loadout every 100,000 damage, pretty much until I run out of weapons to use. Then from there, I will decide what the best loadout is for Pyro to maximize our damage output, and use that for the rest of the challenge, which leads us to Rule 3. Once a loadout is selected, it is locked in for the next 100k. And Rule 4, no achievement or strange farming servers are allowed. Now that we have all of that out of the way, let's get into this challenge. To start off day 1, I selected my first load.
Oh fuck, okay. Oh, I didn't know I had that mod on.
I selected the first loadout we were going to use for the next 100,000 damage, which was the flamethrower, the shotgun, and the fire axe. I then loaded into my first game on Barn Blitz and got started on this challenge. All right, let's do this. I initially thought that playing Pyro would be a walk in the park, W and mouse 1 and all that, right? Well, not when you're me. Dude, what the f... I can't get a single kill. I sucked so bad I couldn't even get a single kill until halfway through my first game. Until finally, this demo man blessed me with my first kill of the challenge. Me a kill, thank God, dude. Finally, 1 kill. And right after that, I was backstabbed by this spy. Oh, I'm backstabbed. Oh, I got 1 kill. After getting my first kill, the game started to pick up a little more, and I started to see some of the brighter sides of playing Pyro, like randomly getting kills you don't mean to just by hitting your mouse 1 button. Okay, just guess I killed 2 people just then. I also noticed something I'm definitely going to have to improve as time goes on, and that is reflecting enemy projectiles like rockets and grenades. And one specific class I'm going to have trouble dealing with: heavies. With the amount of health they have and how close I need to get to kill them, it's going to be something I'll have to find a solution to as fast as possible. Because although heavies having a lot of health at a base of 300 HP makes them harder to kill, it also means that I can potentially get more damage by killing them. So finding a way to do that efficiently will definitely be beneficial to me. With all that said, I finished my first game with an abysmal 1600 damage. Let's hope I can pick it up in my next game, because at this rate, with that game lasting 20 minutes, it would take me 156 hours to complete this challenge, which is obviously impossible to do in a week. Game 2, I loaded into Snowy Coast. I was able to get a kill a lot quicker in this game than my previous one. However, I was struggling to get more than 1 kill at a time, and heavies still weren't any easier to kill just yet. But overall, this game went slightly better, and I managed to end it with a total of 2000 damage after 20 minutes, which is a small improvement from our previous game, but still not anywhere near where I needed to be just yet. Although I was getting better at getting damage, I think. Game 3, I was still struggling to close the distance on players, especially classes that were able to shoot me from longer ranges like the Spy here in this case. However, I did manage to get my first double kill as a pyro, somehow. Okay. But I still clearly had a lot of room for improvement when it came to reflecting projectiles from enemies. God damn it. I did start using my shotgun though, which was actually nice to have for when enemies got out of range of the flamethrower. Being able to tag them at a distance will hopefully help me out in fights down the line. To finish off game 3, I ended with 2400 damage, a 400 damage improvement from our last game. To give you an idea, in 1 hour, I managed to get a total of 6000 damage. At this speed, after reviewing these 3 games, it would take me 166 hours to finish this challenge. That's 23 hours a day for the next 7 days. Yeah, that's just simply not possible. I need to really start getting better at pyro if I'm ever going to finish this challenge in time, and save my YouTube channel from being deleted. Now, to make things even worse, bots have started to plague Australian servers again, meaning finding a casual game to play is going to be a lot harder than I'd originally predicted. But there would be a solution to this: Uncletopia, which is a community server that can't be targeted by bots, meaning I could play safely on there without having to worry about bots taking over a lobby. However, Uncletopia does not have random crits, so if I do play on there, I could be missing out on a big chunk of potential damage while doing so. So, to prevent missing out on too much damage, I will use Uncletopia as a safe haven from bots when the time is needed. Other than this, I'll be playing casual or Scars 24/7 2-4 servers to maximize our damage output and keep our downtime to a minimum, so I can get this challenge done as soon as possible. As I started to get more into this challenge, I was getting a little bit more comfortable with this loadout. I even managed to reflect my first ever rocket back at a soldier. Oh! And right after this, I was able to do the same thing to this demo man. Even though he did kill me, I was pretty happy with the little bit of progress shining through. I even managed to get my first ever positive kill-death ratio as pyro. Dude, I have a positive KD in this game for once. That's crazy. But I still felt like I wasn't getting damaged quite fast enough. So I switched to Sky's 24/7 2-4 server for a little to see if I could speed things up. And that's where I started to see clips like this. Oh!
Years.
Oh, it's on Rican as well.
And it was this.
God damn, dude. Where I was even reflecting rockets from friends who were in the lobby with me at the time. And again on another soldier a couple minutes later. Things were starting to look up. That was until I checked the amount of damage I had done so far. In 4 hours, I managed to hit 50,000 damage. Okay, it is definitely an improvement from our previous time, but it's still not ideal. At this rate, it would still take us 80 hours to finish, or 13 hours a day to complete this challenge. I would not be able to play TF2 every day for 13 hours straight. So hopefully this improvement can continue and it doesn't plateau. I continued playing on a mix of 2-4 and Uncletopia for the next few hours. I honestly was really enjoying stock pyro as I got more into the challenge, and I was really starting to lock down the basic mechanics of the class. Things like air blasting and switching to my secondary were starting to become more like second nature to me, and instead of having to think about doing them, over time they were just becoming a habit, which was going to be good to get into for the rest of the challenge. Obviously my gameplay was very far from perfect, but I was improving, and that's what I was looking for. Even to the point where I was able to get multiple kills in a row, which was already a world of a difference from where we first started. For example, I couldn't even get a kill at the start of the day. After 8.5 hours, I finally managed to reach 100,000 damage, which means I had a total of 77.5 hours remaining of this challenge. This meant I would still have to play TF2 for for close to 13 hours a day for the next 6 days to complete this challenge in time. There's no way I'm finishing this thing if I continue at this pace. I hope our next loadout will help us speed things up a lot more. Otherwise, I might just have to kiss my channel goodbye. Since I've been playing TF2 for 8.5 hours straight, it was getting pretty late at this point, so I decided to get some much needed rest and continue the challenge the next day. So for day 2, I thought, you know, if I'm going to be a dick and play Pyro for the next week, then why not play the part and become one? Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, I'm looking good now. So for our second loadout, I went with the degreaser, the flare gun, and the extinguisher. This is essentially a quick draw loadout. By using the degreaser, I will be able to switch between weapons a lot faster. It has a 60% faster deploy time than stock, with 30% faster holster time as well, meaning I can switch between my flamethrower and secondary, which in this case is the flare gun, a lot faster than before. So in theory, it should make using a combo like this a lot more efficient to use, but we'll just have to see about that. For the first bit of day 2, I loaded into Skyle's 2-4 server to try and get a quick start on damage right off the bat. One thing I will say is that the flare gun was already feeling nice to use. I think having some demo man experience under my belt helped a little while using this weapon, especially when it came to hitting shots where I needed to predict enemies' movements in order to successfully hit them. So even though my aim with the flare gun wasn't perfect, it was something I was feeling pretty comfortable using right now. I was even hitting some pretty good clips with this loadout because of how quickly I was getting used to it. Oh my god. Being able to switch to the flare gun after hitting an enemy with the degreaser for a critical hit was a really good way of maximizing my damage output. It also made for a few satisfying kills too. Oh shit. This thing's so fucking satisfying to use. Holy shit. The flare gun also seems like the perfect solution to an issue I'm having, which is trying to get close enough to enemies, especially against classes like the sniper, who can just sit at a distance and kill me without me being able to get a hit on them. However, with the flare gun, I can use that to deal damage at a distance. And even if I'm not able to kill them, at least I can farm them for the damage that I need. After 12 hours into the challenge and 3.5 hours on for the day, we were sitting at 150,000 damage. So I was moving a little faster than yesterday, which is good, but still not as quick as I needed to be moving. I did, however, come across one method that was going to help me pick up my damage output, especially later on in the video, and that was spawn camping. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god, crits! Oh my god. One thing I found really entertaining besides spawn camping my enemies and making the game absolute hell so that I could get the damage I needed to save my YouTube channel was how scared soldiers started to get when versing me. Usually when playing TF2, they always seem so confident to me, coming and blasting all over me, blowing me. Wait, what? Anyways, but now that I'm playing as Pyro, they really have to think before shooting their rockets at me, because I could potentially shoot them right back with a bonus crit on the end too. But little did they know I hadn't quite perfected air blasting just yet. After 15.5 hours into the challenge, I had finally hit 200,000 damage, with a loadout I actually felt really comfortable using. In these few hours of playing today, I found a few strategies I can use to keep on top of this, and hopefully finish this challenge in time. But there was one strategy I haven't mentioned just yet, and that is having a medic girlfriend. Yes, I said it. I had a pocket for the end of the day, and man did it speed things up a ton for me. So with that discovery, you'll be seeing and hearing Oates throughout the video, who has decided for some reason to help me out with this challenge as much as she can. Anyways, let's talk about this loadout. It was actually really fun to use. I had a really good time using the flare gun, and like I said previously, I think it comes down to my previous experience playing Demo Man, which was definitely starting to show as the day went on. Being able to use it as a combo with the degreaser and its quick draw time was the perfect combo for me. The only thing I will mention is how players were able to run from fights a little more than I would like due to the reduced afterburn time on the degreaser. So at 15.5 hours and 200,000 damage, we currently had 62 hours remaining. A little better than before, but we still had to get that number down quite a bit if I'm gonna have a YouTube channel in the future. For the next loadout, I decided to go with the backburner, the detonator, and the power jack as a melee to hopefully give me a little bit of movement speed to try and get around the map a little faster and maybe get some flanks on my enemies. The first thing I definitely noticed with this loadout was the draw speed of both the detonator and the backburner. It felt a lot slower than using the degreaser and was something I would take a little while to adjust and get used to. In saying that, it also caused me to miss a few shots with the detonator because it just took that little bit longer to take out, and I was finding it hard to get down the timing of this combo. One thing I also noticed with the backburner is that the hitbox on what is classified as a player's back is kind of broken. Sometimes I'll be focusing directly on a player's behind and won't get a single critical hit, whereas other times I'll just randomly get them from just looking at the side of a player. I don't know exactly how that makes sense, but there are plenty of times throughout using this loadout where I feel like I should be getting crits, and unfortunately I just simply don't. On a better note, I am getting a lot better better at taking care of classes like soldiers and heavies, as I was slowly getting more used to this combo. Being able to switch to something that gave me fire damage from hitting a target once was definitely a big help, even though it only gave me mini crits compared to the flare gun's critical hits. It definitely works well against enemies who have more health, and it's also just fun to pull out a direct hit weapon in the middle of a fight and use my aim to my advantage to win. After an hour and a half, I was able to reach 220k, and I've been playing for around 7.5 hours today. So at 2 a.m, I thought I should probably call it for the night and continue my progress tomorrow. Let's see if we can pick things up for day 3. We were now 3 days into the challenge, almost halfway in, and we were only on 220k. I need to get a lot more damage today if I'm going to get close to finishing this thing on time. To start off day 3, I loaded into 2-4 and got right back into it. I will say my thoughts on the power jack for rotating quicker really didn't come to fruition. I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. I think with it being in my 3rd slot, it just became an afterthought, and it not being able to deal any fire damage just made it kind of take a little bit of a backseat. The day was going pretty smooth so far. I played for 5.5 hours, and after 22.5 hours, I managed to hit 300k damage. I would say that this loadout was not as good as our previous one. The slower draw time of the backburner and detonator didn't feel as smooth to use as the degreaser and flare gun did. And if I had to choose between the two of these combos, I know which one I'd be choosing. As well as the backburner just not feeling like I was able to use it for its main purpose. It kind of felt like a pointless flamethrower to use the majority of the time. Damn, not a single crit. You're kidding me. Of course, it did have its moments, but they were few and far between. Oh my goodness. So after 22.5 hours, we had reached 300k, which left us with 52.5 hours remaining of the challenge, which means I had to play for another 17.5 hours every day if I want to complete the challenge at this rate, which is just not going to happen. I need to speed things up badly. I'm not deleting my channel, goddammit. On to our next loadout. This one is going to be fun for a very specific reason, especially combining the flog with spawn camping enemies and with a pocket medic. This was the perfect recipe for a crazy amount of damage. Oh, damn. The plan for this loadout was to have Oats be ready with the crits Krieg after my oomph meter had ran out, to really get the most out of the flog and make the crits last double the amount of time, leading to clips like this where we could get thousands of damage at a very quick pace. All right, crit me.
Okay. Oh my god.
Fuck.
The fucking feed. Holy shit.
They're mad. I think they're a little mad. I will say, however, there is one major flaw with this loadout, which is the fact that the flog does not have air blast, meaning finding classes like soldier and demo was going to be a little more challenging than I would like. I for sure felt myself missing air blast more than once during the course of this loadout, and it's definitely going to play into whether or not I choose the flog as my main flamethrower later in the video. The question is, does the amount of potential damage I could get using this weapon outweigh my ability to stay alive during fights? In saying this though, there were times where soldiers didn't realize I was using the flog, and I was able to kill them quite easily because of this. I was also able to use the invulnerability from the flog to my advantage at certain times. Especially when my health was low, I was able to make myself invulnerable and finish off enemies quickly using the crits I got after the animation was complete, which led to me getting a few extra easy kills I may not have gotten if I wasn't using the flog. This was particularly handy against other pyros. Later on in the day, I had to get myself a stand-in pocket, Worst, because Oats had to get off for the night. So I was able to have Worst give me crits on top of the flog's crits for a little while, which was really useful in this game on Harvest, where I had what I would say was one of my best games so far.
Oh, nice shot, man.
But even with all that progress I felt I was making, I still somehow managed to get fished to death. Well, it wouldn't be an RJ video unless I get fished to death, right? After this, Worst had to get off. So I was left without a pocket for the rest of this loadout, which meant I had to think of another way to keep on top of my damage output. And then it hit me. I hadn't really been using my secondary much with this loadout. So to replace the pockets, I had to resort to using the scored shot, which to be honest wasn't all that bad, especially when I was hitting clips like this. Oh my goodness. This thing was actually really nice to use. The fact that the projectile could potentially do damage to multiple enemies at once was a big bonus to me. And I felt like my aim with these flare guns had become pretty effortless as well. So using the scored shot in combination with the flog, I was starting to feel like it efficiently deal damage by using mini crits from hitting a shot with a scored shot to give myself that little boost in damage that I needed. Of course, it wasn't as good as having a pocket with the flog, but since I didn't have one at the time, this was working better than I expected. And I even ended up becoming a menace in the lobbies that I was in, to the point where I was getting hate messages in chat.
Oh, you gotta fuck you.
Oh shit. To Flog Pyro, fuck you. I did see there was a more efficient way we could have gone about dealing crit damage as Flog Pyro with a pocket medic, and that would be to let the oomph meter build up by using the crits creed to kill some enemies first, and then use the Flog's crits after. This would have made getting my oomph meter filled up a lot easier, and getting clips like this a lot more common than it was. In 27.5 hours, I hit 400,000 damage, which left us with around 41 hours left to this challenge, and I'm not even halfway yet. This next loadout is going to have to be pretty good to get us over the halfway mark in an actual decent time. Yeah, I didn't know it yet, but this loadout was the loadout from hell. This gun, the Dragon's Fury, oh my god, this thing was horrible for me to use. I think after not having to aim too much using the flamethrower these past few days, my aim has become a lot more relaxed, leading to me missing so many shots with this weapon, which practically makes it pointless to use for this challenge. But it's locked in for the next 100,000 damage, so let's hope I can improve as fast as possible, because we are on day 4 of 7 and we're not even halfway there yet. My channel is not looking very safe right now. The first thing I noticed about this new loadout is of course how terrible I was with the Dragon's Fury. I found myself missing shot after shot and maybe being only able to land 1 or 2 shots during my first few fights, which ultimately led to me dying pretty quickly, with little to no damage being done. Ota joined me to start off the day to try and help me increase my damage, but even with the crits medic, I was still missing my shots while being crits creed, which hurt a lot seeing all that damage go to waste just because my aim was so off. One nice feature, however, of the Dragon's Fury is the fact that I now have air blast back, meaning fighting enemies such as soldiers and demos was made a lot easier, provided I actually follow up and hit my shots after reflecting their projectiles back at them. It was also really good at getting rid of enemy sentries and deployables. Yeah, this thing's great for enginess. Holy fuck. So damn good at it. I was able to fire a couple shots and completely destroy sentries that had just been set up, which was just not possible at all with any other flamethrower. So it helped in becoming more of a support role for my team by being able to clear NG nests. Although the challenge was for fire damage against players, I thought this was a good point to mention as a somewhat redeeming factor for this weapon, as an option for a pyro player to use. As I progressed through the day, my aim was getting better with the Dragon's Fury. I was slowly starting to get more consistent with my shots, even hitting some pretty nice flick shots for some clean kills, as you can see on this scout in this clip here. Dude, what a flick shot. Which was one of the classes in particular I was having trouble hitting shots on previously. So with my aim getting better, I went from having games where I only did 500 damage to getting over 1500 in a single life at some points. What I will say about this loadout is that it was my least favorite to use so far. With the Dragon's Fury requiring you to have good aim, I was expecting it to feel pretty satisfying to use, but it really didn't. It kind of just felt like an underwhelming version of the Soldier's direct hit rocket launcher, with it doing far less damage on impact to top that off. Sure, it had afterburn, but that doesn't really help much when you aren't even hitting your shots in the first place, which for half of this 100k I was definitely struggling to do. With that being said, it took me 7 hours to go from 400k to 500k damage. We had finally reached the halfway point in our challenge after a total of 34.5 hours in, with another 34.5 hours remaining of the challenge if we kept going at this speed. It was really late into the night after reaching this milestone, so I decided to head to bed and pick this challenge up again in the morning. This loadout looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see if that's the case. To start off day 5, I loaded in and started playing around with the thermal thruster for a bit. Okay, I guess I'm not going over there. I guess I'm not going over there. Now, there was one thing I did notice very early on into using the thermal thruster, and that's how I got so used to having a secondary of some kind like the flare guns I've been using before. So I would catch myself randomly switching to the thermal thruster mid-fight, thinking I was going to pull out a secondary weapon, when I see 2 big, long, juicy sticks come on either side of my screen. I mean, sure, I don't mind seeing that, but not when I'm trying to kill this heavy. Come on. It was, however, nice to have the good old stock flamethrower back. I'm definitely leaning towards this being my main flamethrower to use as pyro, especially when you throw a medic girlfriend into the mix. Being able to consistently deal crits damage as well as air blast enemy projectiles back at them made this flamethrower a really strong choice for me. With it being good at dealing damage in mostly close range quarters, I spent a lot of time on 2-4 to maximize my damage output. In saying that though, as I got more invested into using the flamethrower, I started to neglect using the thermal thruster. Not like I was going to use it much anyways. I will admit, it was pretty good to get in certain positions and for faster rotation around maps to get back into the action. Also a couple times to escape fights when I was close to dying, but other than that, I didn't really use it all that much. It kind of just became an afterthought as I was getting further into the day, especially after streaks like this, where I tried multiple times to use it only to die right after trying. I would say this is more something I would use if I was bored of playing pyro, not something I would be able to use as a main loadout. One thing I was starting to notice some improvement in while using this loadout was my ability to spy check and kill enemy spies was getting better. From spies being something I really didn't think about at all and would just die to them at any point, to something I'm now thinking about constantly in the back of my head. I just found myself spy checking teammates more and being more cautious in general of my back being exposed for long periods of time. At 40.5 hours in, I had made it to 600,000 damage. 6 hours into day 5 and we still had a long ways to go. I'm not going to be getting much sleep for the next couple days if I want to reach 1 million damage on time. I was pretty happy using stock flamethrower, so I think I'll be sticking with that for our next loadout, as we've ran out of flamethrowers to use other than weapon reskins. For the next loadout, I went with the reserve shooter as my secondary weapon. I was interested to see how it would feel switching back to a shotgun for a secondary, especially while using the stock flamethrower, but the reserve shooter just wasn't all that great in comparison to my experience with the flare guns I've been using previously. With it only having 4 bullets compared to the regular shotgun 6, it also felt pretty limiting. I am aware that the draw time was slightly faster, but 4 bullets didn't really feel like it was quite enough in large scale fights. I found myself reloading quite a bit, and a lot of the time that led to me dying because of the delay caused in between shots. One improvement I have noticed today though is that my ability to deal with multiple enemies at once is far better than when we first started. At this point, I was pretty familiar with Pyro's mechanics. Obviously I was no pro Pyro, but I was able to comfortably take on larger fights with multiple enemies, even without the need for a pocket medic. And one major thing I feel helped with this is my air blasting skills improving to a point where it's getting talked about in game.
RJ's air blasts scare me.
Being able to make a soldier so scared of my air blast that he takes to chat to mention it is a pretty big compliment, I can't lie. For the remainder of the next 100k, Oates joined to help me out as a medic, and we used crits to terrorize our enemies until we reached the next 100,000 damage milestone, which went a lot better than I was expecting to. In 4.5 hours, we had made it to 700k damage, which is our fastest time yet to hit 100,000 damage. So a total of 44.5 hours in, we had 1/3 left to go. Let's see what we can come up with for the next loadout to hopefully get through this as fast as possible. I've been playing TF2 for 10 hours straight at this point, so I decided to sleep and hopefully be able to complete this challenge tomorrow on our final day to finish it. I don't even really want to talk about this fart juice, dude. This stuff sucks. I spent so much time using this loadout and expecting it to do something, but it was very underwhelming. For those of you that don't know, the gas passer is an item that you throw on your enemies to cause them to be inflicted by afterburn after taking any form of damage, even enemy pyros, whether that be from bullets or melee attacks. But for me, for the most part, I found it easier just to set people on fire, rather than taking out the gas to throw it, and switch back to my flamethrower afterwards. Sure, I think in large scale fights, the gas passer could be useful, but unless I'm part of some coordinated team attack, I don't see much use in using it while paired with a flog. But yes, I did switch back to the flog for this loadout. It simply came down to the fact that I knew I wouldn't have a pocket for the first part of the day, so I needed some way to get crits, and well, what better way to do that than flog pyro? Also, I was expecting this to happen sooner, but players were starting to get a little heated at me for using the flog, and to be honest, it made me enjoy using it even more. Like this guy right here. Dude, this guy's not happy I'm using the flog.
I didn't ask you, you demented brain damaged fatherless worm.
Oh my god, he's so angry. As much fun as I was having with Flog Pyro, I still found myself missing Air Blast a little too much to be able to call this my main primary weapon. I think it definitely served its purpose as one of the fastest ways to get damage in this challenge, but if I'm able to stay alive longer by reflecting enemy projectiles to maximize my damage in a single life, I'm gonna do that instead. 5 hours into day 6, and I hit 800,000 damage, bringing us to a total of 49.5 hours into this challenge. And to be frank, 49.5 hours straight of playing Pyro for almost a week, I needed to change things up. Maybe even a change of scenery. Yeah, this was a mistake. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch all this footage of me prancing around in this oversaturated eyesore, but I will say it was a nice break for like 10 minutes. And then after that, I got pretty sick of it. For those of you that don't know, the Rainblower is just a reskin of the stock flamethrower, just with some cool bubble happy effects to, you know, not make you feel as bad while you're absolutely burning your enemies to a crisp. As for the panic attack, well, that wasn't really used very much, simply because I needed to get this challenge done on time, and it was specifically for 1 million fire damage only. So this late into the challenge, with limited time left, I didn't really have time to mess around with the shotgun too much, but there was a couple times I used it to help me stay alive longer. I spent 3.5 hours in Pyroland and finally reached 900,000 damage. And that's definitely enough time in Pyroland for me, thanks. I apologize for what your eyes just had to witness. Don't worry, we're gonna go back to regular OTF2 now. For my final loadout, I went with the stock flamethrower. I feel like Air Blast has become something I use too often to not have it available to me. Sure, the crits from the flog are nice, but being able to control a fight in a way the flog can't simply offer me is a lot more appealing to me. For my secondary, I went with the flare gun. I found this was a strong weapon of choice for me to use, being able to deal damage at a distance and rely on my aim to get much needed critical hits to take out enemies quickly with one final hit. which was super convenient, and the flare gun definitely delivered on this for the last 100k. I found my aim feeling leagues better than it was compared to at the start of this challenge. I was consistently hitting my shots with the flare gun to the point where it just felt natural to use, and I was able to efficiently deal with large groups of enemies much better, simply because one hit from this thing would change the swing of a fight very quickly in my favor. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Well, it wasn't anymore because I took off those damn goggles, but you know what I mean. I was 8.5 hours into day 6 at the start of this milestone, and day 7 was fast approaching. It was currently 10:30 p.m. and I had 1.5 hours left to complete this challenge, or else I'd no longer be able to post on this channel anymore. But just as I thought it was all over... Oh, I hit it. I hit it. Let's go. 1 million damage. By the skin of my teeth, I managed to complete this challenge, with my fastest time to ever hit 100k damage at 1 hour and 25 minutes, thanks to having oats as a pocket the whole time. We finally finished this thing. I won't lie and say I didn't enjoy playing Pyro at times, especially as I became better at the class. And I know now from the experience I picked up filming this video, I can pretty confidently play Pyro when needed to help out my team. Let's just say I won't be giving the Pyro the cold shoulder as much as I used to. Spy. One of the weakest classes in all of Team Fortress 2. Or so I'm told. And for that very reason, I've never played Spy before. Until now. Today, I've decided to challenge myself more than I ever have before. I've decided to not only play Spy for the first time ever, but also master the entire class in only 24 hours. And how the hell am I gonna do that? With this achievement right here. Spymaster. Now, what exactly is Spymaster? The Spymaster achievement requires you to get 1,000 backstabs in order to complete it. But to make things even harder, I'll be trying to complete this achievement in only 24 hours. Now, you might be asking yourself, why only 24 hours? Well, in 2 days, I'll be flying across the world from Australia to America to see my girlfriend for the very first time, giving me only 24 hours of playtime before my flight leaves. So, with that said, let's find out if I can get 1,000 backstabs as a brand new Spy in only 24 hours. Now, for this challenge, we have some rules we need to go over. Rule 1, I can only play Spy until this achievement is unlocked, which means I'm locked into playing Spy for the next 24 hours and can't change classes, not even to take a break. Rule 2, this achievement must be completed in only 24 hours. I will also be choosing a new loadout every 100 kills, pretty much until we run out of weapons to use. Then from there, I will decide what the best loadout is for Spy to hopefully maximize the amount of kills we can get, which leads us to Rule 3. Once a loadout is selected, it is locked in for the next 100 kills. And Rule 4, no achievement or strange farming servers are allowed. Now that we all know the rules, let's get into the challenge. To start us off, I went with the stock Spy loadout, to give us a good reference to look back on later, to see what I prefer for my Spy loadout, and also to compare my gameplay at the start of the challenge to what it could potentially look like later on in the video. Now, the reason I decided to do this challenge was to try and learn Spy as fast as possible, because I always thought it would be a class I'd have a lot of fun playing, especially after learning the basics of the class. But one thing I did not expect is how hard the basics would be to learn, and I have a lot to learn in order to get good at this class. For example, in my first game as Spy, I couldn't even get more than 1 kill in a single life. Being unaware of most of my surroundings and also unaware of how Spy's invis cloak worked, it led me to die in a lot of ways that later on would be seemingly easy to avoid, as well as missing a lot of easy backstabs. Oh, it wasn't even a backstab, which meant I had to run from a lot of fights in my first game. One thing I needed to work on that I realized pretty early on was how obvious I made it look that I was an enemy Spy. Like looking directly at a player's back while trying to get a backstab, which would ultimately end up in me getting seen and taken out pretty quickly because of how I was telegraphing what I was doing. So pretty early on, I had this in the back of my head, and it would be something I would notice getting better as time went on. Not to mention that it would be more apparent when I was getting noticed a lot less. Also, something else I noticed while looking back on this was that I was not doing my part as Spy by not sapping enemy equipment, which would actually help me if I realized that things like sentries were around while trying to kill enemy engineers. I just walked right past that sentry. No idea what I was trying to do there. But there was a couple times in the first game where it finally caught on and I would realize I'd need to get rid of enemy equipment if I wanted to have a bit more freedom to do what I wanted around the map. This wasn't something I was actively thinking about at the time, but it did end up becoming something I would start planning out before executing certain plays later on. With all these points mentioned, this is everything I took in on my first game as Spy, which is going to add to the list of things I'll need to improve on throughout this challenge. But in saying that, this wasn't a casual match as Spy, and for the next couple matches, I would not be able to play casual. Because of how bad bots become at this time in Australian lobbies, I had to switch to Uncletopia. And there's a bit of a skill difference in players between Uncletopia versus your average casual TF2 player. They were a lot more aware of what was going on around them, and with increased game sense, that came with increased spy checking and the ability to spot a spy from a mile away. But I'm not going to sit here and make you keep watching me die over and over over and over again. Instead, I'm going to sum it up for you. After 2 hours and 3 games, I had managed to get a total of 11 backstabs. At that rate, it would take us close to 200 hours to complete this thing, which obviously is way too far from our goal of getting 1,000 kills in 24 hours. A little after these games, by playing Uncletopia for a bit longer, it was actually forcing me to get a bit more sneaky with how I played. I even figured out that ammo packs will give me more cloak time, so I found some routes to help me get increased cloak time by using ammo packs to get a better vantage point behind enemies, allowing me to get kills more consistently. But I was still unable to get more than 1 kill in a single life. I also picked up on one new thing I was unaware of as a new spy player. What the hell is this? What? The Razorback, an item I was clearly unaware of how it worked. But just with a couple failed backstabs, I figured out pretty quickly what its purpose was. For those of you that don't know what the Razorback is used for, it's an item that blocks a single spy's backstab and forces you to get stuck in this animation right here for a whole 2 seconds, where you cannot switch weapons, swing your knife again, or even cloak. It renders you completely useless for that time, leaving you as a sitting duck for the sniper or another enemy to kill you very quickly. Figuring out some of the harder basics of spy was definitely pretty time consuming, and with that time, it also took us a while to get our first 100 kills. It took us a total of 5 hours to get our first 100, but within that time, I did manage to get my first ever life where I got more than 1 kill in a single life. So I guess that's an upside. So to give you a little time update, this was definitely better than our 200 hours to finish the challenge we had started off with, but still not great. If we kept going at this speed, it would take us a total of 50 hours to finish. I definitely got to speed things up if I want to get 1,000 kills before my flight leaves. For my next loadout, I went with the Ambassador, the Kunai, and the Dead Ringer. The first hiccup I ran into with this loadout was that I didn't know how the Dead Ringer worked at all. So when I first died, I didn't know why I wasn't turning invisible. Wait, why didn't it work? Oh, I think I actually have to hold the Dead Ringer out for it to work. What I didn't realize is that the Dead Ringer doesn't actually just automatically make you invisible. You have to actually have it pulled out in order for it to work. So after figuring that out, I was finally on my way with this loadout. And by on my way, I mean I was actually able to get my first ever proper kill streak as spy. Okay, first kill. All right. Not bad. Second. Not too bad at all. I'm Pyros too, just kind of crazy. 3 in a row? What? No way. Oh my god. What is going on? What is going on? And luckily for me, this knife had a kill streak tracker on it to track how many kills I was getting with it. And you may be asking yourself, why does your knife have a kill streak tracker on it? Well, why would I have a kunai and not put a kill streak tracker on it? How else am I supposed to show off how many kills I'm getting in my frag movie, huh?
Shall we?
No, that's your back. That is literally, it was literally your back. Literally your back. Fuck. One thing I was having issues with was bumping into enemy players, giving away the fact that I was an enemy spy and leading to me dying quite often. This mostly happened in maps with a lot of doorways and choke points where it was more difficult for me to get around other players. And while mentioning maps, I will also say that I was finding payload maps pretty hard to navigate at the moment, with a lot of enemies being pretty proactive at watching their backs while playing these game modes. This meant I would have to find ways of being a bit more sneaky about how I navigate these maps when they come up. So far, I was enjoying this loadout a lot more than the stock. I don't know if it was me getting more experience with spy or not, but the added health boost I get from kills with the kunai along with the added security I felt while using the Dead Ringer was a nice combo to have. However, the Ambassador felt like it was worse to use than the stock revolver, but in saying that, my aim was pretty terrible at this point. The Dead Ringer was a nice choice for me. I felt like I had a second life at times, and those moments where I was struggling to get away from fights, it was nice to whip it out and use it as an added speed boost to get out of there as fast as possible. No way, dominating? Okay, I'll take 2. Come on, come on. Yes! I was definitely seeing a lot of progress pretty quickly with this loadout. I was able to get a lot more kill streaks as the day went on, and I even had my best game yet, where I managed to get 12 backstabs in one game. 12 backstabs. Oh my god, okay, that's pretty freaking good. Okay, all right, yes, and second in the lobby. Okay, all right, we're picking up. That's a lot better than 11 backstabs in 2 hours, right? My general game sense was also getting a lot better, for example, like avoiding snipers with a razorback and focusing on other enemies. But it wasn't all perfect. There was still a lot I needed to improve on. This game, where I got 12 backstabs in one game, was handpicked out of the many other games that I had that went absolutely atrocious. Like, I was still even forgetting to take out my dead ringer at times, and then I'd question why I died. Wait, what the hell? How did I die? With all that being said though, I did make it to 200 kills. At a total of 8 hours, we managed to hit 200. That's 2 hours better than our previous 100 kill milestone. So we're definitely getting better, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. Because if we continue at this rate, this challenge will not be done in time before I go to America to see my girlfriend. Off the bat with this one, I really want to tell you how nice it is to have movement speed on kill. Oh my god. Being able to move away from a fight after killing an enemy to get myself to safety is a really nice change of pace. However, not having a second life from the dead ringer was proving to be a bit of an adjustment I wasn't expecting to have to make just yet. And for the first initial stage of this loadout, I was gonna have to find a way better way of entering into fights. Instead of going into fights with the mentality of having a second life and dying just being an afterthought, I now need to think of ways to get behind enemies while doing my best to trick them and make them believe I'm on their team. Or just get better at timing when I uncloak, instead of uncloaking for one kill at a time. I need to make it more worth it if I'm going to go for a kill, which means waiting for a good moment to strike to avoid getting killed too quickly, and using the increased movement speed from the big earner to give me an escape route if needed, which is also where the cloak and dagger comes into play, giving me a lot more mobility by being able to recharge my cloak meter just by standing still. But one downside to the cloak and dagger is that sometimes I wouldn't notice when my cloak meter had ran out, so I'd be running around fully visible to the enemy team, which would just end up in me being killed very, very quickly. Oh. I was out of cloak. Other than that, and the fact that I was having a little trouble adjusting back to using an invis watch. But we were getting there. I even managed to get a few cool clips. For example, like this one here, where I managed to get an enemy engineer's sentry to kill him. No way. No way. As much of a help as the movement speed on kill was, there was also times it would hinder me a little by making it hard for me to accurately hit a backstab because of how uncontrollable I found the movement after getting a kill. Like in these clips here. Dude, I was missing so much. But other than the odd missed backstab, I was able to slowly improve on my skills as spy. I was even accused of cheating after backstabbing this invisible spy right here. What the fuck? Okay, just kill an invis spy. You saying, how did you know I was there? That's so sus.
You're hacking. Good.
I'm getting accused of cheating. As much as I was missing the dead ringer, I was actually getting better at avoiding dying to enemies after a successful backstab. And I was also getting better at finding routes to get behind enemies on payload maps like Upward, which made it a lot easier for me in terms of keeping my time down in this challenge. Because if I could improve on these game modes and maps I was having trouble with before, it meant I'd be spending less time searching for the perfect maps to play, and I could just get right into the next game. But improving was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And the challenge was starting to get to me a little at this point, as you can tell from this clip here.
How's it going?
I'm done with this shit. I'm forced to play Uncletopia, but like everyone in Uncletopia is really good at the game, so like they know what I'm doing before I even know what I'm doing. Just gotta get 11 more kills. One more thing I noticed about this loadout was that I wasn't able to get as much kill streaks as I could with the kunai. I don't know whether or not it was the fact I was missing backstabs, but I wasn't able to as consistently get multiple kills in a row, which to me felt like I was moving slower with this loadout than my previous one. With that being said, after 11 hours, we hit 300 kills. So it took us 3 hours to get 300 kills, which is actually the same time as our previous loadout. But to be honest though, I definitely had a better time using the kunai over the big earner. It just came down to the health on kill versus movement speed on kill. And for me, health on kill felt a lot more beneficial. I felt like being able to tank more damage to get out of sticky situations was worth it over the movement speed that the big earner offered. So as it currently stands, I would say the kunai is my favorite knife to use as spy, but who knows, that might change with our next loadout. A big pain in my butt I've been having to deal with so far throughout this challenge has been pyros. So to combat that, I've decided to try out the Spycicle to see if having a counter to their fire damage would allow me to stay alive a little longer. And who knows, maybe I'll up my backstabs per life too. And yeah, it actually worked for what it was intended for. I was able to get away from pyros pretty easily with this knife, which made my life a whole lot easier. But one thing that wasn't making my life so easy was my aim with these revolvers. Oh my god, it was so bad. This is definitely something I'm gonna have to work on throughout the challenge, especially for those moments I get caught trying to backstab an enemy and there's no way to get out without dying. It would be nice to be able to protect myself a little. Obviously, this challenge is about backstabs, but I'm also trying to do that as fast as possible. And in order to do that, I need to stay alive as long as I can to avoid any respawn timers or having to get back into vantage points to kill enemies from. I wouldn't say that the Spycicle is much of a kill streak knife, as it really doesn't offer much in terms of any benefits per kill. So comparing it to other knives such as the kunai, if I was looking to consistently get kill streaks, the Spycicle wouldn't be my first pick. But it does a good job at what it's meant to, that being a very specific use case, which really limits it in becoming my main knife to use as spy. Not to mention that when I do get caught in a pyro's flame, I lose my knife for a period of time, meaning that no matter what, I'm still going to be slowed down whether I die to the pyro or not. And with my revolver aim not being that great just yet, I would just end up running from fights anyways, kind of just making the Spycicle not worth using for the rest of this challenge. With that being said though, I was able to get a couple smaller kill streaks. No way. But there was also times where I could have potentially got more, and I was hit with a little bit of fire and instantly lost my knife, leading to me having to get out of the fight a lot quicker than I was anticipating. 13.5 hours into the challenge, I finally hit 400 kills, over halfway into our time limit, but still not halfway through the kills I need to get yet. I need to really start getting more kills per hour if I'm going to get this challenge done in time, which means picking another loadout to hopefully speed things up for me. And with only one more knife to try out, maybe this next one might actually end up being my main knife for spy. We've reached our final knife to try as spy, which is the Eternal Reward. Now, for this knife to work as intended, you need to have a full cloak meter. So I've decided to go with a stock invis watch for this loadout, as it will allow me to fill up my cloak meter quickly by using ammo packs, so that I can continue to disguise as enemies when I needed to. But in saying that, this mechanic is going to take a little bit for me to get used to. As you can see from these examples, even after killing an enemy and automatically cloaking as them with the Eternal Reward, I was still stuck in the habit of recloaking after a kill. So I would still end up cloaking again after getting a kill, and then using my cloak meter up, which I didn't need to do. This was a little bit of an issue throughout my time using this knife, but thankfully didn't show up as often as it did in my first couple of games using it. I was still able to use the knife for its main purpose, and my initial thoughts of this thing was that it was pretty good for being in large groups of enemies, particularly around payloads. I was able to pretty easily get multiple kills in a row because it was hard for the enemies to keep track of which merc I was disguised as. After playing for roughly 14 hours straight, I did start to notice my aim getting better, which was actually really beneficial with this loadout in particular because of the Diamondback, which gave me crits for every backstab I got, or every building sapped with my sapper. So having crits to help me kill enemies a lot quicker, as well as my aim getting better, was a very nice combo. Especially as I was getting used to this new loadout, it was really helpful to secure a kill and stay alive in situations I may not have been able to if I didn't have those crits I'd earned. I was, however, missing the Spycicle a little. There was plenty of situations where I would get caught in Pyro's flames, which would lead to me dying 90% of the time. But if I was to have the Spycicle here, I would have been able to get away pretty easily from this situation. With that being said, I would have lost my knife, which means I would be alive, but I would have to wait for my knife to come back, or look for an ammo pack to get it back. So although I was missing the Spycicle because I was dying, I don't really know if it was a better choice over the Eternal Reward. In order to compare this knife to the Spycicle, if I'm going to decide which one's better than the other, I'll have to see how quick I can get 100 kills with the Eternal Reward before I make my decision. 15.5 hours and 450 kills into the challenge, I decided it was probably a good time to call it for the day, seeing as I've been playing TF2 for so many hours straight, but also because I needed to the next day, and I need to get some sleep if I'm going to catch my flight on time. Day 2, things weren't going particularly too good for me, especially at the start of the day. Just as I was saying before about missing the Spycicle, well, right now I was missing it even more, with pyros becoming one of my main causes of death today, as well as some simple mistakes on my end I could have easily avoided. Like here where I forgot to cloak and also forgot to disguise myself as an enemy, and then just walked out in front of this soldier casually. Dude, I just forgot I was playing Spy. The brain rot is finally kicking in. But even with all of that slowing me down, I still managed to get 50 more kills in about an hour, bringing us to a total of 500 kills in 16.5 hours. Now, to compare that to my time with the Spycicle, the Eternal Reward took me 3 hours to get 100 kills, and the Spycicle, it actually took me less time, 2.5 hours to get 100 kills. I think it simply came down to the fact that I was having so many issues dealing with pyros, and the fact I've been playing for hours while using the Spycicle the whole time. Whereas with the Eternal Reward, I did take a break in between and got back on the next day. I will say with confidence though, that neither of these knives will be my first pick when it comes to the knife I choose for Spy as my main knife for the rest of the challenge. But since we've ran out of knives to use, I'll tell you now which one I'll be using. I don't know if any of you are surprised by this, but I went with the kunai. Now the initial reason I switched back to the kunai was that I wanted to see if this thing was going to be my main knife for the rest of the challenge, but I'd only previously used it with a dead ringer, so I wanted to see how the kunai felt with the cloak and dagger instead to see if I could get kills as consistently as I did when I used it with the dead ringer, or hopefully even get more kills. One thing I did find myself having to get used to again was the low base health I had while using the kunai. I even found myself wondering how I died so quickly at times. What the hell? Oh, kunai. But I was eventually able to catch onto this and avoid staying uncloaked for longer periods of time. I found myself using my cloak to get behind enemies and tried to avoid having them see me at all while I was disguised to limit my chances of dying. By doing this, I was able to blend in for a couple seconds, which was just enough time to get my first backstab, and after that, well, I had enough health to get a couple more. I will say it's super nice to be able to switch to whatever class I want whenever I want to again, and to be able to go invisible a lot more often too. I think that the Eternal Reward is a great knife if I was struggling to fool enemies, and if I needed to get a couple kills quickly. Entering a big group of enemies and blending in for a little to get a few easy kills is great, but I prefer the flexibility I feel like I get from the kunai. I can disguise as any class I want when I want, and with the health on kill, that will give me enough time to get a few kills on larger groups of enemies and make it out on the other end too. I was starting to perform really well with this loadout. I even managed to top frag on this game on Sweden. Sweden? And got 22 backstabs in one single game, which is my best game yet. Of course, my gameplay wasn't perfect as I wasn't even 24 hours into my first time playing Spy, but I was super happy with the progress I was showing so far. And if I was missing backstabs, I was also able to finish off enemies with my revolver more consistently too, as I was getting further into the day, which helped keep me alive a lot longer. Speaking of staying alive longer, here's an example of something that actually prevents me from staying alive: the hate some medics have towards spies. Medic! 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 Thanks, Mr. Stroke, standing there stroking your... On a brighter note though, a little later I was actually able to get my best kill streak yet at 9 kills. Check this out. World's dumbest heavy, dude. I'm gonna disguise this on. Boom, take that. Yes, I know a couple of these were a little questionable, but that's how it goes sometimes as Spy. You gotta take what you can get, especially when you're trying to get 1,000 kills in 24 hours. A couple of games after getting this kill streak and 19 hours into the challenge, we had reached 600 kills, which only took us 2.5 hours. This is now our shortest time to reach 100 kills, but that's still not fast enough if I wanted to be able to complete this thing in 24 hours. We still had 400 kills left to get, and at this rate, it would still take us another 10 hours to finish, which is 29 hours in total and way over our time limit. But I've decided to stick to this loadout, however, and really try my best to get better at the kunai as fast as possible. Let's see if that's going to be good enough though. For the next 100 kills, things were going pretty smoothly. It was starting to feel like I was getting kills at a faster rate. I was also getting better at being more patient with my backstabs, which was a massive help in preventing myself from missing them by hitting my left mouse button too quickly. I was able to keep my cool a little better in higher stress situations too, which meant I was able to get kills in scenarios where I would previously die before even getting one kill. I was starting to become more and more fond of the kunai the more I used it, and I was able to consistently get over 10 backstabs in each game I was playing. So I would definitely say that's a major improvement from where we first started, where I could barely get more than 10 kills in our first 3 games as Spy. As I was getting further into the day though, I was finding that lobbies were getting a little harder to navigate as Spy. Players were able to tell I was disguised from a mile away, and I was having a little trouble getting behind enemy lines because of this. So for my next loadout, I decided I wanted to switch back to the dead ringer to give myself a little change of pace and use that to see if I can get behind enemies a little better than I was right now. After close to 2.5 hours, I managed to get to 700 kills. All right, how much is that? 700. All right, we got 700. I'm in pissed on. Thanks, Nemo. Appreciate it, mate. Need to change my loadout anyways. Thank you. 2.5 hours is a similar time to our previous with this loadout, which means at this speed, we're still sitting around 7.5 hours to finish this challenge. That's way slower than I want to be moving if I want to get this done before I need to catch my flight. So for the next loadout, as I mentioned before, I went with the dead ringer and the kunai. The main reason I wanted to switch back to the dead ringer was the fact I was having trouble getting behind enemies, and I wanted to see if the dead ringer would help me fool these enemies who were too clued on to what I was trying to do while using the cloak and dagger. And yeah, it actually worked for what I wanted it to. The combo of the Deadbringer and the kunai felt really nice to use again. I was able to get behind enemy lines a lot more often, leading to me getting kills more consistently, simply because instead of relying on my disguises to work, having them not work in these lobbies actually ended up becoming a pretty big advantage for me. I did run into a couple issues while using this loadout, however. I was having some issues getting multiple kills in a row as often as I did with previous loadouts, and that pretty much just came down to how I was using this loadout, to more so get guaranteed kills over multiple kills in a row. And I was also running into an old habit. I was forgetting that I had the dead ringer, and I wouldn't pull it out sometimes before dying, which obviously led to me getting put on respawn timer, which wasn't ideal at all. But I was able to actually get 50 kills in 30 minutes. This came down to the fact that I had found the perfect lobby of players who were unaware enough for me to get behind them and use the same tactics over and over again to continuously farm the lobby for kills. But unfortunately, after this, bots started to flood this lobby, leading to me switching to Uncletopia for the rest of this loadout, which was not a smart idea at all, because after another hour more, I managed to hit 800 kills, which obviously, yeah, 50 kills in 30 minutes versus 50 in an hour is a big difference. Overall, I was happy with how this loadout felt to use, and I was able to use it for what I wanted to, but it turned out being just as slow as our previous loadout to get 100 kills. But I was starting to feel a little limited by the Deadbringer at the end, with the fact that I had to die in order to go invisible, whereas with the Cloak and Dagger, I was able to stay invisible as long as I wanted, which meant I had to play a little slower, but I was able to get more kills in a row this way. And because of this, I've made the decision to switch back to the Cloak and Dagger for the rest of the challenge. But with that decision, I would have to get better fast if I want to be able to finish this before seeing my girlfriend for the first time. After taking us another hour and a half to reach 800 kills, we were sitting at 23 hours into this challenge, which meant I had 1 hour left to complete this thing on time. These next few games, I was going to have to get very lucky, which means leaving Uncletopia and going back to casual, where the lobbies were a little bit easier to trick. Now we just had to pray to the TF2 gods that we got no bot lobbies to slow us down. Let's see if I can get 200 kills in 1 hour. I left Uncletopia after switching my loadout and got myself into my first casual game of my last hour. And luckily for me, there was no bots, and things were starting to go pretty well. I was managing to farm some pretty easy kills and get multiple kills in a row more consistently than I have been able to in the past couple hours. But even with how smoothly things were going, I still somehow managed to get myself fished to death. Dude, really? Just died to a fish. What the hell was that? It wouldn't be an RJ video without it, huh? But even with me dying to a fish, looking back at all of this footage, I will say that my improvement with Spy has been a lot quicker than I ever would have thought. I wouldn't think that any time in this video, I'd be getting this many kills in succession, like in this clip here. And to be honest, I think it's the fastest I've ever progressed with any class in TF2, especially for it being my first time ever playing Spy. I would say that Spy's quickly risen to one of my favorite mercs in TF2, and I'll definitely be giving him a lot more playtime after finishing this video. Something about being able to trick and deceive my enemies in order to get a clean kill on them made Spy feel so satisfying to play, as well as the dopamine hit you get from this sound right here. Ooh, yeah. As I was progressing through my last hour, I was able to get multiple games with over 20 kills in each. Like this one right here, where I was able to get over 30 kills in one match, which I mean, that is just night and day from where we first started in this challenge. Luckily for me, each casual lobby I was getting myself into, players were showing more signs of incompetence and lack of game sense in some scenarios, like in this clip here.
Looking for your ass.
But the question is, even with all the circumstances coming together, was it enough to get 1,000 backstabs before I leave for America? Well, with the clock ticking and the pressure mounting, it was a race against time, each backstab bringing us closer and closer to our goal. But was all of this enough? Could we overcome the odds and achieve this seemingly impossible challenge? The answer? Yes. After 24 hours of playtime, we hit 1,000 backstabs. Oh, that's it. We did it. Finally. 1,000 backstabs in just under 24 hours as well. That's crazy, dude. I did not think I would be able to do that. Oh, man. With this challenge now complete, now it's time for me to get my arse out of here and catch a flight. For the past few months, I've been on a mission to find TF2's hardest achievement. And today, I finally found it. Prime Cuts. Using arguably one of the worst weapons in the game, the classic, you need to give all 9 classes in one single round in order to complete it. Yes, give, not just kill. For some reason, I love torturing myself in this game, but this... Bro, what? Boom! What? No! Please, 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 please. No. Yeah, this really took things to another level. But with that said, let's see if getting this achievement is actually possible. All right, game 1. Right off the bat in game 1, I had some issues working out how to actually use this gun. Wait, what the hell? How do I aim in? Oh, I just tap. Okay. 45 damage? 50? What the hell? This thing does no damage. I didn't realize that I didn't have to hold down my right click in order to scope in, or that the gun had to be charged in order to do any significant damage to an enemy. Dude, this heavy is impossible to kill. This lasted for the whole first game, by the way, which I ended with 0 kills. I also found out that unlike the stock sniper, you can use the classic fully charged without even having to aim down sight. This would come in handy later on. Oh, what a shot. Now, even though I was starting to understand how to use the classic, oh, okay, we got a demo. It still felt really clunky to use to me. The classic is definitely one of the least rewarding snipers to use, as headshots don't even count unless it's fully charged. Oh, 135 is it fully charged? It's because I'm hitting body shots, as well as damage dealt on body shots being reduced by 10%. So pretty much you need to have it fully charged in order to use it efficiently, leaving you as a sitting duck 99% of the time when you're using it. Not to mention looking like this to everyone else around you. This is what I look like when I'm playing. So pathetic. Sniper being seen as one of the strongest classes in the game is usually something I would agree with. But when you put the classic in the hands of someone like me, boom. Bruh. Yeah, that's a different story. My aim with the classic needed a lot of work if I was ever going to get this achievement. They can come towards me if they want. I'm just keep killing them. Never mind. I was even missing shots on almost stationary targets. Sniper? I missed. He was standing still. Somebody stand still, please. Boom. What? Not only this, I was also missing out on some easy kills as I get nervous and take too damn long to shoot my weapon. Oh. I'm sorry. No! Leave me alone. Stand still. Stand still. No. But this would improve over time, especially as I began to figure out how good the classic was when it came to no-scoping. Damn, okay, I'm dominating someone. That's very surprising. Hey, maybe I'm better at this sniper than I thought. Oh, okay, never mind. A big problem I was noticing, which I should have seen coming from the start, was spies. I was getting backstabbed a lot. Okay. Was it? Oh. Ooh. Ooh. He's lagging. You didn't even need to backstab me, dude. Obviously, this came down to the fact that I was playing sniper and wasn't spy checking enough. But when you move at this pace, it doesn't really help much either. So with that said, I decided to put on the Razorback to prevent those pesky spies from getting behind me for a free instant kill. No, spy. That's better. A few hours in, I was starting to become pretty hopeful I could finish this challenge. I even had my best round yet. Okay, sniper. Yep, okay, we got a pyro. And NG. Okay, Sniper Pyro NG. This might be the game. Sniper Pyro NG Scout. What is going on? It's like the perfect choke point. That is a spy. I need to kill him. Oh, I missed. Heavy. That's a free kill. Okay, heavy. Yeah. Soldier. Okay. Wait, we're gonna get it. We have 4 minutes left too. Oh, he didn't gib. No. No. All right. This is my best game yet, though. My best game yet. But then the round after this, I was only able to get 1 kill. No. The unpredictability of this achievement was the one thing I was having the hardest time with. If the enemy team decided to not have any engineers for a round, then I wouldn't be able to kill any NGs and would not be able to complete this achievement. Or, you know, if they decided they wanted to fill half their team with demos, leading to games where I would only be able to cross off a couple classes off the list. I've only killed 2 classes this game. This is ridiculous. I decided I wanted to mitigate as much unpredictability as possible. And my solution to this was to try and find the most optimal game mode to play for this challenge. The best game mode for this challenge ended up being payload, because of how players would crowd themselves around the cart and also the choke points that these maps offered. I tried out other game modes like King of the Hill and Control Point, and I came to the conclusion that these maps had way too much room for players to move around on. And I wanted to keep myself in a somewhat even playing field to other players, especially while moving like this. Dude, look how slow I move when I charge up. Look how slow I am right now. I'm useless. As well as payload maps offering some optimal spots for me to set up as a sniper and watch the enemy team from a distance if needed, because obviously using the classic up close wasn't really much of an option for me at the moment. Payload also offered a lot more opportunity in increased round times, because if players kept moving the car efficiently, the chances are the game time will increase. But of course, there were still times where I had some pretty questionable lobbies. Man, heavies are so easy to kill. but there's no one else. But no matter what game mode I played, these felt like some of the shortest rounds of TF2 I've ever had. I don't know whether or not it was because I was paying close attention to the timer, or if my teams were just that good today. These rounds were ending way faster than I wanted them to. And at the moment, there wasn't really much I could do to change this, except for one thing, which was to improve its sniping as much as possible. So, that's what I did. After spending some time working on my aim, I jumped back into some casual games again to give this challenge one final attempt for the day. My aim was noticeably better already, and I was able to get some pretty nice no-scopes in this last hour, as you can see here. Ooh, the no-scopes on scouts is going crazy. This was one thing that was starting to grow on me with the classic. Being able to hit an enemy fully charged without scoping in really helps with keeping myself from focusing on one target at a time. This also allowed me to have an increased field of view, which meant I was able to stay more aware of my surroundings and save myself from getting snuck up on by classes like scouts. Oh, what a no-scope, holy crap. In addition to becoming more accustomed to the classic, I also achieved my best game yet. Okay, Pyro. Let's see if we can get someone else here. That's the sniper back there, is it? It's a sniper. Okay, I got a spy. Nice. Ooh, what a shot. Soldier. All right. We got a scout as well. Okay, that was an NG, I think. Oh, I just jumped over that rocket. It was perfectly timed. Yes! Demo, okay. I need to find a medic and a heavy to kill. There is none. They're always together too, but there's none. Give me this medic. Give me this medic. No! No! 135 on the medic. I don't think they have a heavy though. I haven't seen a heavy in like 5. Oh, I take it back. Okay, we can get the 2-for-1 here and finish this thing off. Come out. Oh, betrayed. We got the heavy. I just need to kill a medic. No, he's Ubered. I just gotta wait for it to wear off. I'm gonna hide up here. Oh, there he is. There he is. No, I missed it. Oh, no, he's Ubered. Oh, they're getting so close to the end. Let me kill him. Please let me kill him. No, no, I missed. Only got a minute 30. Where is this medic? I'm just gonna run around and look for one. Get away from me. No. No, dude. The game ended before I could get the final kill I needed, which was medic. This definitely took its toll on me, as I'd been playing TF2 for hours and hours on end. Not to mention the time I put into aim training as well. I was really demotivated after this game. All right, that's it for me. I've been at this for hours. I'm not even gonna see this other round out. I'm ending it here for the day. Seemingly getting so close time and time again, at the end of the day, the challenge felt harder than ever. But I was still determined to finish this achievement. So I took a break for the rest of the day and would come back tomorrow for a fresh start, with hopefully a better outcome than our first day. Yeah, in hindsight, I don't know whether taking the rest of day 1 off was a good idea or not, because day 2 somehow ended up being even worse than day 1. I'm so bad. No! With my best game only being able to give 5 out of the 9 classes. And with my morale already low from the day before, I was really feeling like this may be the first achievement I would give up on. It felt like the odds were against me today. For example, in this game here, most of my enemy team decided to play as scout, which doesn't help me at all. So with that, I decided to take a step away from TF2 for the rest of day 2 and come back tomorrow with this goal. Okay, tomorrow I'm not closing TF2 until I get this achievement. Let's see if we can actually do it. All right, start of day 3. Let's finish this thing. The start of day 3 was very promising. In our first game, I managed to kill heavy. Let's go. Pyro. No way, what a shot. Spy, sniper, soldier, and demo. Oh, pretty damn good. I was also getting significantly better at using the classic, as I was finally getting used to how the gun shoots and also starting to understand and predict enemy movement a lot better, leading to me hitting my shots more consistently. Using the classic for one of its more advantageous uses was also becoming a viable strategy for me, which was no scoping. Oh, air shot. Damn. Let's go. Ooh, damn. Okay. As you can see here, I was getting even better at close range fights and no scoping while getting pushed by classes that earlier in the challenge were a lot more difficult for me to deal with. But now I could just unscope and use a fully charged sniper with all the FOV I needed to take them out. A few hours went by and I was getting closer and closer with every passing round, but I still seemed to keep missing out on 1 or 2 classes at the end of rounds, which was what I needed to actually finish this achievement. This was seeming like it was going to be one of the first times I wouldn't be able to complete an achievement, but I made a promise to myself and I couldn't close TF2 until this was finished. Okay, it's 2 a.m. If I don't finish this soon, I'm gonna fall asleep in my computer. This has to be the last game. I don't know how much longer I can keep playing for. NG, okay. I barely get NGs. No! The pyro? Yes! More time. Let's go, baby. Scout, okay. How am I missing on the heavy? Soldier? No, 135. And sniper. Very nice. Yup. Yup. Heavy. Just a medic and a demo left. That's it. Kill the spy, because why not? Ooh, oh. What? You kill me with 1 sticky? I'm missing all my shots and I'm throwing. Oh, did I get him? Yes, I did. Okay, we just need to kill a medic now. Oh, I see a medic. I see a medic. Oh, they're all looking over here now. Oh, no. Yeah, push it, medic. Push it. No, the railing. Oh, there's a medic there, too. 360 on the medic. How am I missing these? No, he's by himself, too. 82. No, no. 3 minutes 38 left. Screw this, I'm pushing with my team. I gotta get more time. I gotta get more time. Run, 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 run. Why is he moving so much? Yes! Yes! Let's go! Let's go, I got it. Oh my god, finally. Oh man. What a crazy achievement. That's a wild one for sure. It was really, really fun. After 3 excruciating days, I finally achieved prime cuts. With all of the factors out of my control, like what classes players picked, and also how fast or slow rounds ended up being, I can confidently say that this is the hardest achievement I've ever gotten in TF2. Thanks. These have been TF2's hardest achievements. This has been some of the most fun I've had playing TF2 in a long time. Creating these videos and getting these almost impossible achievements has really taken me back. Getting achievements is something I've always tried to do in video games ever since I was young. I still remember 11-year-old me sitting at my Xbox 360, searching through some of the most obscure achievements to get in games I owned, and going out of my way and trying my hardest to get them. The fact that I can now do that and film it for you all is definitely a crazy experience for me. TF2 is not only one of the most unique games out there, it also has some of the most unique achievements I've ever seen. The requirements for some of these achievements in this game is absolutely crazy, and I look forward to completing all the hardest ones I can find. After a 6-month long journey of creating achievement TF2 videos, I've decided to compile all of them into one video. And that's what this is, a compilation of content found in the RJTF2 channel. If there's any challenges or achievements you'd like to see me complete in any game, let me know down below. If you have any other suggestions on content you want to see on here, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to go check out my other channel, it's here on screen. See you all very soon and have a good night.